Well, welcome to today's Daily Dose. You haven't seen me before. My name is Howard Bruce. I do attend Evident Life Church, and at this point, I'm actually leading the senior group, if you'd like to come. But what I want to talk to you today is about investment. What if I told you there's an investment you could invest in that would guarantee you a 100% return, or maybe 10% return? That's not bad. 40% or 60%. What would you think of that? Would that get your interest? Let me add to this. The cost of your investment is basically little to nothing. Now I know I should have your interest. I used to be in sales. I was in sales most of my life. And I used to hear this story. If it sounds too good to be true, it probably is. But what I'm talking about today is 100% true. It's absolute. Let me start off by telling you a story about investment. I knew these businessmen that ran a business, and they would meet once a week. It was in a high-rise building, and they would have their meeting. And when the meeting was over, this businessman him and his friend would take the elevator down to the main floor. And as they were walking out, every week he would go to this newspaper stand and he would buy himself a newspaper. But as he started to approach the stand, the man that was actually selling the newspapers would look at him with a stern look on his face, and he would say derogatory things, and he would just belittle the man. But this businessman friend of mine, he would walk over and he would pay him the money, and he usually gave him a tip, and he told him to have a nice day. Well, as we were walking away, I asked the businessman, I said, why do you do that? And he says, I never want to give that man an excuse to act the way he acts. What I'm going to talk to you today is about being kind and the investment that you make into kindness. A while back, I made a statement about a year and a half ago. There is never a reason to be unkind. Stop and think about that. At the time, I had to stop and think about it. I didn't realize what a challenge this statement would be to me. And as I began to walk through that, I began to see that many times I wasn't very kind. If you want to learn something, you have to do it the way that Jesus said. And he says in Acts, he says when he gave his Spirit for you to be a witness, part of your witness is being kind. But where does it start? It started in Jerusalem. Well, that's where your home is. In Judea, that's your neighborhood. Samaria, that's the people you don't even like, and you probably wouldn't even want to be around. And from there to the othermost parts of the earth. And if you do it the way Jesus says, what happens is you begin to change. And if you change, it changes on the inside. Being kind will change the way you think about people and will change the way you talk about people. That's quite a statement in itself. How do you think about people? How do you talk about people? Jesus said another amazing thing. He said, if you love only your enemies, what profit is that? Everyone does that. Well, that's the same way with kindness. If you're kind and just to get kindness back, that's not what Jesus is talking about. He's talking about being kind, even to the unkind. This is the most important part of what I probably will say. If you want to do this, this is how I would start. I would take 10 minutes in the morning, and I would just sit with the Lord and tell him that you want to be kind. Tell him you want to change on the inside. Tell him you want him to do this. And if you take a few minutes every day, this I can promise you, you will begin to change. You will begin to speak different. You will begin to think different. And you will begin to act different. So remember, there is never a reason to be unkind. So today, be kind. I pray that God bless you this day and His goodness will be upon you. You will hear His voice. Thank you.